Welcome back to my car shop. Today we're going to work on finishing up the floor pan under the rear seat on the driver's side. Hope you enjoy this episode.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
Repeatedly on the channel, I hear from you guys that you want details. And I try to find that balance point. But you asked for it and you got it. And so why do I hear the intro to a Kiss concert? You wanted the best! Never mind. Anyway, so I'm going to take that piece of floor pan out that we've been working on in the last episode and finish up the welding and finish work on that. And let's go from there. So let's just get after it. It's just too much talk. So I purposely had left a lot of overlap. So now that I've got it welded on the other side, I want to go back and just trim that overlap back. I'm not even really caring so much about what this looks like. I'll grind it down roughly, and on the bottom side I'm just going to shoot it with like some of the similar to factory rust proofing sound deadening so that it disguises it a little bit. I'm not trying to hide anything, that's not the point. You know, like I said, I'm making this a functional driver car, so seeing some welds and sheet metal and so forth, I don't care. I don't care if it's perfect. On the other side, there's a few spots I may just take a little bit of fiberglass resin and just go over, and there's just a couple little teeny pinholes where the metal is good and strong. My main concern is sealing the moisture out. So I may do that, I may not. It's something I've definitely done before. And just to clarify for those who haven't been on the channel before, the point of this is not to do a concourse. This isn't a 426 Hemi 4-speed convertible that's worth $500,000. This is a 318 Challenger that came out of a scrap pile with other cars on top of it that was rotted out from, you know, look at the other episodes. It was unsalvageable by most people. So all I'm caring to do is take something that nobody else would mess with and make a fun driver out of it. I want it to be strong. I want it to be sealed. I want it to look decent. It's going to be gorgeous when it's done on the outside, but you're going to see some spots where obviously I've worked on it. I don't care about that. So keep that in the context here always. For those of you who've been with me from day one on this project, I apologize for the redundancy, but we're always picking up new people. This may be their first episode, so I always want to be sure to go back and recapture the context. Anyway, I'm going to go through and cut this real quick and get this trimmed back a little bit in a couple spots, and then we'll get the back side of this looking reasonable. Just wanted to mention one thing that you may have noticed I was doing there in the time lapse, and I don't think I've called attention to it in the shop before, so I'll illustrate it for you here. I have two pieces of sheet metal that I've welded together, okay, wherever that is, and so they're welded together, and then I have the overlap. So when I'm taking the cutoff wheel, and this is the point of this, I'm not just pushing down and cutting right through both, obviously, like this. We don't want to do that. We just want to go back and forth gently on this, down, 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 gently, until this piece goes poink and snaps off the top, and this piece stays where it's welded, you know, to the other piece there. So if you noticed in that, I didn't just go and just cut that through. I was going gently back and forth, checking it to see when I was getting thin. And so I'll take you over there and show you that. But I just wanted to mention that when you're trimming off pieces like that, just be real gentle, go back and forth. And I even do that when I'm just cutting a single piece of metal. I don't necessarily just hog on through it, but I try to make myself a guideline following the line that I've drawn, so that I'm just following that with the cutoff wheel, going back and forth gently until it finally breaks through. You just get a little better cut that way. You have a little better control. You can go around corners that way to a point as well. You can't just hog your way through a corner when you're using a 4 to 6 inch cutoff wheel. But if you come, like if this is the material here and I want to just kind of cut that corner like this, if I go back and forth with that cutoff wheel, eventually it's going to come to the point it's going to break through, because it's only using just a very small edge of that cutoff wheel. So keep that in mind when you're cutting sheet metal with a cutoff wheel. A couple of other things I want to mention as well, but let me wait till the furnace shuts off so we don't have so much noise. You may have noticed in the videos, or you may not have noticed. Yes, Jimmy, I went ahead and did it. I had been looking for a large screen. I don't like the little tank slit machine gun turret type of welding helmets. But I did find the large screen one for a price I was willing to pay. I got it from Eastwood. You can see it's the XL9300. Today's actually the first day I've used it. I just got it yesterday, or Friday it came. And so I haven't had a chance to use it because we had an activity going here this weekend with a bunch of my guy buddies. We do twice a year, we get together from high school and have a great weekend of just relaxing and stuff like that. But anyway, so the welding helmet came. I got it set up today, and I've been using it. I like it. It's going to take me a while to get used to it. I'm still getting a little bit of welder flash, but not as bad as the one I used 20 plus 30 years ago. So I know there's sensitivity adjustments and so forth, but I think I've got it as highly sensitive as it can be. I may have it backwards. I don't know yet. I'm still figuring all that out. But regardless, I will get used to it. So I shouldn't be flipping my helmet nearly as much as I was. So anyway, I finally went ahead and made that purchase. So there you go. I got the auto darkening helmet. And as you heard me mentioning, I was cutting down here, or saw me doing on the time lapse, gently gently, gently until this broke loose. So you can see I didn't really get into this metal at all. If you're consistent in your motion and you're consistent in going back and forth, eventually you'll see it start to break loose, and you can just flip it up and down a couple times. So my intent is not to try to blend this in and make this perfect. I don't really care. I will probably just put a small bead of seam sealer across that. I am going to grind this down a little bit because this was that rounded edge up above that you saw from the other side. I haven't ground that yet. And I did a little trimming here and here. Got a little carried away there because it was such a small piece. I didn't get quite as much done there as I wanted. But a little grinding down in here. And then, like I said, I'm just going to dab some seam sealer in there and call it good. Again, the context of the car, I want it functional and drivable. I don't care if it looks like it's a perfect restoration. This is a functional restoration. If I wanted to be ridiculous, if this was a bigger dollar car and the parts weren't available for purchase, I could fill that in and make it almost completely gone. I'm more concerned about not getting the metal too thin and keeping it strong. Like I said, I don't care if a little weld shows, so good enough. If I really wanted to make it look whatever, I could put a quick coat of tiger hair on that and sand it out and it would be gone. It's a floor pan. Keep it in context. It's going to get covered with spray, it's going to get covered with sound deadening, it's going to get covered with carpeting. Good enough for what it is for this car. So I can't emphasize that enough. Context, context, context. Alright, and there you can see it all ground up now. I actually did get carried away right there. I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to grind down in here, and I cut through right there with the edge of the grinding disc right there. So I got to go back and weld that up a little bit, and that's my point, is you've got to be careful. When you're grinding, you don't want to lose integrity and you don't want to burn through. So I'm just going to buzz a TIG welder over that real quick, I think, and melt that together and get that fixed up. But the floor pan is basically done. It's all grounded on the backside. Grounded. Anyway, it's metal finished on the backside. Not perfectly. Again, in context, I don't care. It's fine. So the TIG didn't work. Back over here to the make, and I've got a piece of brass behind this. The metal was thinner than I thought there, so that was my fault. That's why I don't like grinding things too much. Why I was like leaving myself a little bit of material there. But I got a piece of brass like this behind here, so that when you have a hole that you want to fill, you don't end up with a bunch of crap on the other side. So what happens is you can weld and fill the hole in without a big goober on the other side, a bunch of wires poking through, as well as not burning through more. So if I go in here now and just spot this around with the MIG, you can see up in here that I burnt through with the TIG. It's just ground a bit too thin for what I was trying to do. If I had probably stepped down to my 25 thousandths MIG wire with the TIG welder, that probably would have worked, but this is just going to be faster and just as efficient. So again, that's why I'm very cautious about over grinding, because you can blow through like this pretty easy. So all right, we'll get her done. Alright, we got them patched up. I am not going to grind those. I think I'm going to leave them go because that material is thin there, and that was completely my fault. Let's flip it over and I'll show you what it looks like on the other side though, because that's what we're seeing with what happens when you use that piece of brass, or I've also used a piece of square aluminum that I have. So you can see up in here where I had the brass, it looks very good. I am going to dress that up a little bit. Here I couldn't get the brass quite as tight because my clipper things, my vice grips weren't quite big enough to reach. I still had the brass there, so it prevented it from becoming a big goober. So I'm going to dress that up real quick, and then we'll look at it again, and I have a few things I want to explain. So as you see now, it's dressed up fine, good enough. Looks decent. Zooming in there. It'll look decent, it'll look good. Main thing is it's structurally sound. Again, that's the goal here. I got carried away, I wasn't paying attention, I was grinding in one place and the edge of the wheel was catching it and I didn't see it, and I cut through and actually in two places, so it's fine. Just a second and mention that I'm really trying to show you when I screw up, and that's hard. But the fact is, you're gonna blow through, you're going to grind through, those things are going to happen. And while yes, I can definitely take two pieces of sheet metal and weld them together and grind them and so forth and make it appear as though there's virtually no seam, it's a floor pan. I don't care about being that particular there. And the only reason I ground through in those two places was because I was trying to grind a weld down in another place, and the edge of the disc caught it and I just didn't see it. So those mistakes are going to happen, and it's not that big a deal. So use a piece of brass, use a piece of aluminum, go through, fill those back in. That'll save you a ton of work. Trying to fill a hole, I tried to do it with the TIG and it was just a lot thinner than I thought. And so the challenge with the TIG welder is the fill rod has to be thinner than the material that you're welding. If it's not, when you try to put the fill rod and melt it in, it blows through. So obviously even 35 thousandths, that metal was very thin right there. Fortunately, it was just literally a cut with the edge of the disc, and if you got out just a little bit, that material was thicker. So I was able to fill it with the MIG welder and just move on. And I'm not grinding it as much, but by the time I put some seam sealer on the bottom, and like I said, I'm probably going to do the floor of this car with bed liner. I like that. I like the texture of it. I like the sound deadening quality of it. And then if I go over it with something like Dynamat, it's going to be great. So the main thing is I'm obviously trying to give it structural integrity so the floor is solid, and keep the moisture out so it doesn't get moisture up into the Dynamat or into the carpeting or whatever, and then rot the floor back out again. Now, will this car see wetness? Not much. Driving down the road and it rains with this car, I don't care. If I'm driving my GTS, I do care because of the open hood and blah, blah, blah. I don't like that car seeing rain. This car is going to be more of a driver, so that if you're out on a day and the rain comes along, it's not that big a deal. So in context, that's the only moisture it would see is road splash and some rain. So obviously the car will be sealed up, but you want it to be sealed up. You don't want there to be a moisture issue and all your hard work rust. So think that through. Always keep it in context. I know a couple of you have commented that you've appreciated thinking about context and things and what you're doing. So I'll always try to explain that in the video. This is the context of this car. It's okay to be that way. Couple other things, but let's go look at that floor pan now that I've shot it with some paint and some rust conditioner, and let's just see how respectable it really looks. So there it is. These are the welds I'm not going to grind down again, but I am going to take and just run that seam sealer down there, just a brushable seam sealer, and make that respectable. I want to put it here as well, and then of course it's going to have ultimately some kind of sound deadening rust proofing on the back side of this as well. That'll help blend that in. Again, I'm not trying to hide the fact that I've patched this, and quite frankly, I don't want to. I'm kind of proud of this. I enjoy doing this work, and I don't mind it being visible if somebody's really looking. Some people will say it's crappy work. I get that. You know what? Again, as I just said, context, context, context. So let's flip it over and look at the other side. So again, paint's not quite dry there. I hit a few goobers, but it's decent. The main thing is it's structurally sound, and that's key. That's what's most important. So we'll put it in the car, and there's a lot of runs right in there, but makes it look worse than it is, but that's fine. Let's get it in the car and see what she looks like. There we go, in the car. I'm going to put this on the stand, the tripod, and let you see just how strong it is, because I just tested that myself, but I can't hold the phone and do it. And that's ultimately the goal. Even though this is below the seat, it doesn't need a ton of strength. It obviously is part of the structural integrity of the car as well. So it's not quite pulling in place up in here and down in here and that kind of stuff. I've got it clamped down here. And when I weld it in, of course, I will attach it, and I'll show you how I fixture it and pull it in and make sure everything is in place before I weld it when I get to that point. But I don't want to do that yet. I'm not ready to put this piece of floor in. This was just a little side journey for me to make it because it was a fun little project, and I know a couple of you were wanting to see floor pan work. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of with that at all. It's reasonable, like I said, for the context of this car. So I'll show you the strength. Hold on. So when I push this down in place and get it down in here, and I can push it over in here, it's just tweaked a little bit, and that's not abnormal from the welding process. But point is, when I push down on that thing, it is just as rock solid can be. So I'm very happy with that. It'll push down in the corners over here when I weld it in, and when I do go to put this in, I'll pull it down in here, and this is I'll probably clamp it. I'm thinking about getting some Clecos to help hold things, but if you can't get Clecos or you don't have any, use sheet metal screws. Get things pushed down in place, run a sheet metal screw through, or even a pop rivet or something just to hold things in place. The nice thing about Clecos is they're reusable, and it really would be beneficial to have 10 of those. If you don't know what they are, Google them. They're a very handy tool for sure. But I push all that down in place. It fits nicely along here. Of course, that's going to be cut in. It's just not even welded up in here yet, and it's just as strong can be. So good to go there. It does need to tweak this way just a touch. There we go, that's better. And then, like I said, it's just a teeny bit warped in here, and it's because of this welding right here, and I figured it was going to do that, but it ain't that big a deal to pull it down in place and get it where I want it. So we'll pull that right down into the frame. I've got to drill the spot weld holes through here so I can weld it to the frame. Lots to do, but as I mentioned, I don't want to do any of that yet. I want to just leave this piece and leave this open because I have a lot more chassis work to do here yet. and it'll be nice to be able to access that. I still have to put drain holes in the floor, which I could do from the other side, or in the frame rail, which I could do from the other side. But I think this piece of floor pan here, there's a couple little teeny patches I gotta do. It needs a little trimming, but I'm gonna say this is good to go. It's done. You spray that down with some of that texturized rubber bed mat stuff. It's gonna look really nice. It's been a great weekend here at my car shop and just here around the home area. I had a few of my buddies come up for the weekend. We get together twice a year. There's 8 of us total that get together every year for a guys' week of camping, and we have what we also call a guys' winter retreat. And due to COVID, not all of us were able together for various reasons, but 4 of us were able to share the weekend together. My buddy Chris came up a day earlier even and did some work for me over the couple of days. He's the guy that repairs all the electronics gear for the band, and he does work for me here in the shop too. And one thing that happened this weekend, and I'll put his video in here as well, but we have a plasma cutter again, which couldn't have happened at a better time, because I really am ready now to move over to the other side and start putting in the frame rail on the passenger side on this 70 Challenger project. So thanks, Creeb, I appreciate that. Thank you to York Motor Supply in Bay City, Michigan for providing us with a resistor that we didn't have. We had some of the transistors and so forth we needed, but we were missing a 10 ohm resistor. That's a pretty big resistor to take it from 250 volts down to about 12 volts. And one part on the chopper board was blown. That was the problem with it, and we were able to, why am I saying we? I was just there. He was able to diagnose the issue. We were able to replace the bad parts, and we have a plasma cutter again. So that's awesome. I'm happy to have my plasma cutter back. That was brand new in 1988. I've had it since the early 90s, so it's been around a long time. But these Hypertherm units are just about bulletproof, and when there's not much in them to go bad. So I was glad he was able to diagnose it, and we got the schematics from Hypertherm, and we got her fixed. So that's awesome. Really happy to have that back. Another good day's work done. You know, I keep hearing back from you guys, and I appreciate it. The things you want to see from the channel here, and I keep hearing over and over again, you appreciate me sharing how long it takes to do these things. It takes me twice as long probably because of doing video, obviously, and wanting to explain things and making sure that I have the camera set up and yada yada yada, but I don't mind that, and I'm really glad to share it. You guys have just, even this weekend on episode 31 and episode 30, have given me some great feedback on what you'd like to see. I know, excuse me, I can't remember who it was, but I know one of you commented that you would like to see more of the fixturing and how I hold things in place before I weld them in. So I will definitely keep that thought in mind and try to share more of that with you on how I do things and so forth. And he's right, that's just as important as sharing how to fabricate things. If I was wanting, I just wanted to make this clarification, if I was wanting this floorboard to look more like the factory original floorboard did, I probably would do some of it over again. But in the context of this car, it's fine. I don't mind the welds showing a little bit here and there. Could I do it and not have the welds showing? Yeah, I could. I don't care. Like I said, that's the context of this car. Driving down the road at 60 miles an hour or cruising through town on a Friday night with a nice lumpy cam in my big block, I don't think I'm going to be thinking about the fact that on the floor pan underneath the car you could see a little bit of a weld. It's not a concourse car, it's a fun driver. My main concern is it's safe, does it look reasonably respectable, and especially bodywork. If you've seen the 47 Ford, I want it to be straight as an arrow. I want it to look great. And this car is going to be black, so not my first rodeo with that, and so there'll be a lot coming once we get to the paint and body work on this car. That's a ways out yet. I'm doing the part that I love the most right now. I will be doing some more paint and body work yet by spring on the 47 Ford. I really would like to be driving that car, so we'll share some of that over there as well. I already did share a bunch of that paint and body work stuff, probably starting around episode 25 through I think there's 35 episodes on that car, so apologize that the format of those shows isn't quite what this one is, but I've been figuring this out as I go, and I've really only been stepping the game up here for the last 6 months on the channel. So that's where we're at with that. But next step, I think, is going to be ripping into that passenger side rear frame rail and getting that done. And then I would like to get the 8 3/4 rear end from my buddy Dave and get it cleaned up and get it ready to stick under the car so that the car is mobile again. And then we'll start, probably get the motor pulled out of it and stuff like that. But I want to have it rolling around by spring here. There's a lot of fabricating to do back here yet. Obviously, we need to do trunk floor. I'm really excited about that. I've got a pretty cool design I want to do with the bead roller to lay in the floor, something a little different than what the factory design was like. So we'll see how it goes. I may change my mind. As you know, I tend to think with you and talk things through. You guys give me great feedback, and I appreciate that. So keep up the good work on your end, and I'll keep trying to give you the content that you want to see. I can't remember who it was. I apologize. There's been so many comments on the channel, and I read every one of them. I really appreciate it. But one of you commented on how really with what I'm doing, it's not taking that much longer because factory pieces don't fit that well anyway, and they take a lot of custom fitting and cutting to get them in. And might have been Bob. I'm not sure. Anyway, whoever it was, you're absolutely spot on. It does, you know, that things don't always fit right. You got to trim, you got to tweak, especially with floor pans. That's just the nature of the beast, you know. So I'm doing what I love to do, and is it more work than buying parts in? Of course. But that's just the nature of this, and it's what I enjoy. So I really appreciate you being here. Again, you keep saying that you want to see more detail, so I'm going to continue to up the game on the details here, which is why I wasn't even going to do an episode on this piece of floor pan finishing. But from what you guys have said this weekend, I thought, all right, I have the time today, let's get it done and share it with you. There's going to be more coming on this. There's also going to be more coming on the Oakland real soon. So lots happening here in my car shop. I appreciate every single one of you. This really is your channel, and I want it to be what you want it to be in the context of what I can do here. So keep firing those comments and those questions. I really appreciate that. I take every one of them seriously, and you guys are just awesome. I can't say that enough. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? There's so much here you can learn from, even if you're learning what not to do, right? If I'm maybe an example, even if it's a bad one, and that's okay. So no, there's, you know, you may not want to do it this way, but there's always something to be learned. So there you go on that. So subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, hit the like down on the video if you would, and any video you watch, please do that. It just helps us bump us up more into the recommended videos on YouTube so that more people come to the channel. The more people that are here, the more I'm going to be able to do. We've got a ways to go yet, but I am so excited to do a members area behind the scenes section on this channel. There's a lot of stuff that will be a lot easier for me to put out than what I do with these episodes. That is content I think you guys are going to want to see. Also, if you're on Facebook and Instagram /mycarshop, we are there. I'm constantly putting out content there. Jokes, pictures, sneak previews of what's coming on the channel soon, all kinds of things there, so please join us over there. And again, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who's making this channel possible. I can't do it without you. I appreciate it. And there's more things coming, but I think I've let enough cats out of the bag today, so I'll save something for the next episode. Rock on, guys.